Will Europe stand together in supporting Ukraine? That's one of the questions that Russia's interested in and committed to change. There is no better time for it than elections in two strategic EU countries, both of them neighbors of Ukraine. Good evening, my name is Maja Mazurkiewicz and welcome to the Anatomy of Disinformation. Presidential campaigns are underway in Poland and Romania. Whether the eventual winners speak with a Russian or European voice is of strategic importance to many. There's a range of tactics a foreign actor could use to sway voters towards or away from a particular candidate, or get them to stay home altogether. It all started on TikTok, long before anybody even noticed that a new front line had opened in Romania. The situation in the country has since grown increasingly chaotic. After the Constitutional Court annulled the first round of the presidential election in December. Our first guest joins us to talk about the influence operations targeting Romania as it gears up for a runoff vote this Sunday.
Otilia Nuțu, board member, Expert Forum. She is a policy analyst specializing in energy and infrastructure with expertise in state-owned companies, regulatory frameworks, and EU finance programs in energy and transport. Ms. Nuțu is a member of E4, where she leads energy-related projects, organizes debates in Bucharest on market liberalization and corruption, and monitors regulatory quality and corporate governance in state-owned enterprises. She is currently the EU coordinator of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum, Working Group 3 Energy and Environment, and a member of the Steering Committee of the Eastern Partnership Civil Society Forum.
Anna, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today. It's a very special time. Both Romania and Poland Both Poland and Romania are heading to polls, and Romania is in a challenging situation, isn't it, right now?
Well, I think all of us are, and we really need to take into account the fact that Russia has declared itself at war with us, and this is the information and political phase.
And you are heading to the second round elections, but what really happened in the first campaign? The court annulled the first round of the elections at the end of the last year, so were the authorities well prepared for handling the situation in this round of elections?
Well, it's actually quite complicated because, these anti-system candidates are actually a part of the system, and some of the established parties, those in the ruling coalition, also gave them some support because they wanted to have an easy competitor in the second round. And I think they made the mistake in November, and they repeated the mistake now. So it's going to be quite tricky because the extremists who are presenting themselves as being anti-system are actually supported by at least half of the system in their own way. So yeah, I think we've been through a bad experience in November, but I don't see many lessons being learned fast enough. So we don't have an effective campaign to combat disinformation like it happened last time. We don't have a proper and timely monitoring of the financing of the campaign. And it seems at least the authorities which are monitoring the online space are simply incapable to keep up with the 21st century. I think those are the main challenges right now.
And because you are an expert also researching disinformation, and your organization is, have you been also looking at the financing? I know that also in Georgia and Moldova, they've been both saying that cryptocurrency is a huge thing in financing of influence operations. Have you looked into that?
Well, we don't have information that the state has. We can only look at what the Permanent Electoral Authority is publishing about what these candidates declare. And what is shocking for us was that Georgescu, the person who won the first round last November, he managed to report to the authorities that he didn't spend any money on his quite successful online campaign, and the authorities didn't do much about it. And we see that there are delays in the reporting of the financing as well this time, and I don't have that sensation that the authorities really understand the dangers of having lack of accountability for how the money is spent. We also have some legislative gaps. So, for example, between the two rounds, there are a few days between the election day in the first round and until the recognition of the results officially, which was on Thursday. So in that period, we are not considering it as being an electoral campaign, which means that candidates can spend whatever. It's not considered campaign financing. So these are gaps which can be very easily exploited. And we see that there are a lot of inauthentic behaviors on social media, particularly on TikTok and on Facebook. And so we see a rerun of what happened last year.
And exactly about those unauthentic behaviors and influence operations, I guess, that you are monitoring, are there any specific narratives that you can say that are visible?
Yes, there are very much like the pro-Russian narratives that you hear in other places, of course, adapted to local audiences. So it's mostly against, Romanians spending money for Ukraine. So a lot of negative campaign against the counter-candidate. And the problem is that the social media platforms are not transparent enough and they are not reactive enough. So it means that even if we see some things and we report, we don't get an answer immediately enough. So even if some of these campaigns are taken down, it doesn't matter if that happens after the elections and after this campaign has produced its results already.
So there's no pre-banking, for example, actions or proactive actions?
No, not really. Not really, because we are not really prepared to fight this type of war, which is very 21st century. And there is this temptation that if you report, a dubious account, they are going to take down link by link and account by account. But you cannot fight in this way with a swarm of trolls and bots and automatic processes. So this is actually one part of the campaign. The other part, which I think is equally important, is the fact that the support for the extremists is not only online. So yes, of course, online you can mobilize a large share of the let's say people who are not necessarily very active politically, but a large part of the campaign also in last year, we saw that consisted of the mobilization of various communities which were apolitical before, like associations of taxi drivers or, meditation groups or other forms of professional associations. So you saw that a lot of leaders of these communities, which are generally apolitical, suddenly just 2 weeks before the election, they start in unison to support a certain candidate. And this definitely requires a lot of organization, and it couldn't have been done without money, as they have claimed to do.
So it's basically the new tactic, pretty much, that you also seen, right, before the first round of elections in November, that there are that they are very much targeted different groups. And do you think that those situations can also happen in Poland or any other places? Are you are in cooperation with different countries that are also holding the elections and saying that that's one of the new methods that are being used?
Probably some of the methods can be replicated elsewhere. What I think is very important is to understand that these methods are very well targeted to the local context. From the messages that are spread to the types of communities that get activated. And again, in our case, it was done at least with the complicity of parts of the system as well. Because, for example, after the elections were cancelled, we saw that for at least 2 months, there was no kind of deep investigation into why the elections were cancelled. What were the foreign interferences? What did go wrong? So only after a while, they started doing some investigations in some networks, like, for example, the bodyguard of Călin Georgescu, who was actually organizing a sort of Wagner-type mercenary group in Africa, which was definitely well known to authorities for a long time. And only after 2 months after the elections, they started looking deeper into it. So I think it will be, if the elections turn out well, let's hope so, I think it will be a serious challenge to make sure that all the complicities or the lack of competence that made this phenomenon happen will be accounted for properly. We really need to clarify which parts of the state did not function and what we need to do to defend ourselves, because this is just the beginning of a fight, and we should expect all sorts of foreign interference to do social destabilization in the future as well.
Anna, thank you so much. Preparing for those events is crucial, and proactive communication is even more crucial. That's why we are in the Anatomy of Disinformation talking about important issues. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Is Russia yet again meddling in Romania's presidential election? Let's zoom in on the campaign of hard-right Eurosceptic candidate George Simion.
George Simion emerged victorious from the first round of Romania's presidential election rerun on May 4th. Although this doesn't mean that the force is particularly strong with this one, his TikTok follower base of 1.4 million trumps that of his second-round rival, Bucharest Mayor Nicu Șordan.
Our analysis of George Simion's TikTok campaign reveals clear signals of disinformation and manipulation.
For instance, videos accusing authorities not just of fraud, but of including 4 million deceased people in electoral rolls. These claims have been officially refuted. Hopefully, you don't believe in numerology. But speaking of fours, the number seems to be a recurring theme in this election redo. There are 4 million Romanians living and working abroad, including many of Simion's TikTok followers.
The campaign strongly targeted the Romanian diaspora. From 15 to 30% viewers were based in Italy and Germany. This suggests a strategic attempt to mobilize external voters using fears, national identity, and distrust.
In fact, as many as 70% of Romanian expats in Italy, Spain, and Germany voted for Simion, wooed by his religious narratives, conservatism, and unapologetic anti-establishment rhetoric.
Very important for me, on election day, his account featured Călin Georgescu, delivering the same messages. Possible to avoid violating electoral conduct rules while preserving the narrative.
Simion vowed on Sunday that should he win the presidential chair, he would piggyback ultra-nationalist Călin Georgescu into power in a likely Trojan horse maneuver. Georgescu, a former candidate in Romania's election last November, was banned from running in the redo owing to a Russia-style influence operation on social media that had significantly beefed up his voter support.
Poland is also heading to the polls this Sunday for the first round of its presidential election. The country's Minister of Digital Affairs recently said that Russia is trying to interfere in the vote by targeting the information space and critical infrastructure. With our next guest, we'll talk about the situation on the ground and how national institutions are securing the vote.
Andrzej Kozłowski, Narrative Trend Analysis and Fact-Checking Team Head, NASC. He is a cybersecurity and disinformation expert, researcher and lecturer specializing in information warfare, hybrid threats, and international security. His research focuses on Russian and Belarusian cyber and information operations, the impact of disinformation on public opinion, and Poland's strategies for countering malign foreign influence. He is the former head of the analysis office at the Kazimierz Pulaski Foundation and the former editor-in-chief of cyberdefense24.pl.
Andrzej, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us in this very crucial times right before the elections in Poland. Is Poland ready? And if Poland took a lesson from what happened in Romania?
Thank you very much for invitation. About the readiness of Poland, we lesson learned from the examples of the other disinformation campaigns in various countries. For sure, we will talk about Romania, but we also need to remember that there is always a surprise factor in the next disinformation narrative in many elections. So we try to be as ready as it's possible. However, we couldn't exclude a scenario that something new will happen. But what we actually did to prepare better for this election. So, regarding the case of Romania, for example, we organized a meeting with the influencer, as we know that influencers played a key part in the disinformation campaign in Romania. So it was one of our activities, but it was because of what happened in Romania.
Okay, so you realize that the influencers have been targeted in there, because that's exactly what happened, right? The narrative has been spread before, and then influencer kind of took it, and one of the candidates kind of was talking around the issue. And right now you were targeting influencers before and building the awareness around it, that something like this can happen?
Exactly, because building awareness of selected groups like NGOs, like for example journalists, like the members of the public administrations, is part of our activities, and of course influencers. Today we had a second meeting with the influencers. We wanted to talk with them how they approach to this information, what kind of the problems they meet, what kind of the threats they perceive, they meet maybe in their activities, just to share our experience, our knowledge with their feelings, with their experience also. And I can tell you that it was a very fruitful discussion.
Were they aware what disinformation and influence operations are and how they affect both of the people?
Yes, we were very positively surprised by their knowledge, their awareness about the campaign, so how many questions they have, and the questions very specific one regarding the topic. So absolutely, yes, we met with the people who knew about this information and about the threats in the digital world.
And how do you think that Polish society is resilient towards the issue?
It's always a tough question, because also as a NASC we are engaged in many campaigns to promote knowledge about disinformation. For example, even in the last year we produced with the Ministry of Digital Affairs the troll campaigns, the movies with
showing
the trolls, exactly.
You shouldn't be a troll and you shouldn't post it further, right?
Exactly. There was also the 6 episodes of longer videos broadcast both in the public television, but also in the internet, because we wanted to reach to the different audience, of course. And in the last week also we published the next movie with the Karol Strasburger, quite famous person, especially among the older people. But it was again in the television, because we wanted to reach this older people, but
so
also
you were reaching more the older people, right?
Both. I will say that we wanted to reach out to both, because also the meeting with the influencers, because they are more influential among the young people.
And any specific cases that you can tell me about the things that you're seeing? There is a doppelganger influence operation happening in Poland, but maybe something else as well.
Doppelganger operation in Poland is not a very significant one. It's like the specific one regarding Poland, but it's not like the most important one. What we are observing, there are like several trends regarding, for example, attacks on the candidates. That one of the candidates is presented as being drug addicted, the other that was engaged in the organized crime. There are also narratives about interference of external actors, but not Russia or Belarus, but for example, European Union. And as we have this initiative, European Defense Shield, to defend against disinformation, it's presented as a way of interference of European Union into Polish election. And last but not least, and I think so now, like the key trend is we started with the Romania, and against the Romania it appeared here that if, for example, Polish counterintelligence wanted to discuss something with the Romanian counterparts, it's of course because they wanted to discuss how to cancel the results of the election if not the right candidates win this election.
So it's very much targeting the trust towards the elections and the fairness of the process.
Exactly. It happened also in the previous elections, like to the European Parliament or the local elections. We are also observing this trend regarding these elections, that there is no sense voting because the elections are rigged, the candidate is already, we knew who would win. We don't have any influence on the outcome of the election. This is like the message.
What are the main platforms that you are observing? Are you looking at VICOP as well, for example?
Yes, VICOP is among the platforms we are observing, but of course our main targets are the most popular social media platforms in Poland, like for example Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, X, but also we increasingly monitor VICOP and the narrative regarding election there.
And in less than a week ahead of first round of elections, what is the most important in terms of your work?
I think so that we need to be calm and patient, and we just do our job as we did it before, without panicking about something. We are prepared, we have tools, we are also monitor the infrastructure, which could be potentially used in the disinformation campaigns. So we just need to do our job as the best we can do actually.
And what are the key things that the audience and the voters should be aware of?
I mean, just before the election, there could be like deepfakes regarding, like for example, some disinformation regarding either candidates or either the process, because we already observe it. So I think so. This is it could be appeared just before the election, that for example the elections are rigged or they are cancelled or something like this regarding this. So the people should be aware about it, and should let's say be very aware about some sensational information coming from unidentified, unverifiable sources.
And check all of those in the reliable sources.
Yes, exactly. We just wanted to encourage people from Poland to check bezpiecznewybory.pl, because this is our hub of knowledge, and there you can find the latest information about not only disinformation but also election at all.
Andrzej, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. How are social media influencers used in disinformation campaigns during elections? Let's find out.
Social media influencers play a pivotal role in disinformation strategies around elections by leveraging their large followings to spread disinformation or misleading narratives. Political actors and foreign entities collaborate with or impersonate influencers to spread targeted content supporting specific candidates or agendas. By blending authentic content with disinformation, they make false narratives appear more credible to share them on platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, often reaching younger and less politically engaged audiences.
Democracy is the key freedom of our times. It gives the people a choice to vote and to elect authorities that will make decisions about where the country stands. It's one of the most important values we have. But those decisions are being manipulated by huge influence operations carried out by Russia and other state and non-state actors. Awareness is the key to making an informed choice. So till next time, keep calm and think deeply.